Silver City was founded in 1864, not long after silver was discovered at War Eagle Mountain. The settlement grew quickly and was soon considered one of the major cities in the Idaho Territory. The placer and quartz vein mines became depleted around the time Idaho became a state in 1890. Due in part to its extremely remote location, Silver City began a slow decline but was never completely abandoned. Today, the town has about 70 standing buildings, all of which are privately owned. Many of the owners are third or fourth generation descendants of the original miners. We can't see much from up here, so we're going to take a closer look. On our way in, which was most certainly the road less traveled, we passed this mine ruin. Directly across the road was this small shack, which was a common sight in this area. We arrived late in the evening and crossed a small creek in the dark. We were fortunate to find this small site next to the creek. Trout were everywhere here, but Edie didn't have her license for fishing yet. This is something she'd regret as the trip went on. Across the valley, directly above our camp, was this house that was approximately 2,000 feet away. The acoustics of the valley made it seem much closer, as we heard every word they said on their balcony, as if they were standing in our camp. With all the properties privately owned, we didn't get too close to this Victorian-style dollhouse. It was very clear who became wealthy and those who eked out a living here. This schoolhouse was built in 1889. I couldn't help but notice how much time and effort it would take to create a building like this, with so much detail so far away from civilization. This hotel, which is one of the first large buildings that you come across in the town, didn't look too large, but we should take a look from the back. The Dally Barn was the local stable, complete with its own small corral just across the alley. This Mason temple was built in 1881. It actually straddled the creek, which was really impressive considering how long it was. This is St. Augustine's Church. We wanted to get a closer look, but first we needed a break. Why? Well, because the church was way uphill. They missed an opportunity in naming this. If ever there was a time to call a church Christ the Rock, this was it, because it was built on what seemed to be a single granite mound. This church is still used today with 4 sermons every Sunday. There was no shortage of abandoned antique cars. Just around the corner was this mine shaft with another old car. It had a straight 8 engine, a water pump that spun like it was brand new. But what I loved most was the power takeoff winch tied directly in with the transmission. It had its own drum brake to control, and the driver still sat in the seat and shifted gears. What would they need this for? Pulling ore directly out of this mine shaft. There were simple, modest houses throughout the area. This collapsed stone building had no description, and there were a few clues. It had small jail-like rooms, a fire hose under a tall staircase that leads to the sky, and a stone edifice that arched above what was probably the firehouse. All in all, our best guess was that this was a county building. Firehouse, jail, and government office all in one. The drugstore was right next door. Nearby, there were other stone structures that were collapsed, but we're not sure what they were. The only building in town that had any signage was this tin-cladded house. Its foundation walls were hand-strewn rock, being over 3 feet thick and 15 feet high. Smartly, they built it directly over a spring so as to have water year-round. Originally it was built in 1893, It had served as a hotel, a pharmacy, a bowling alley, a saloon several times, candy store, just to name a few. It even boasts its own Dead Man's Alley to the right. Joseph Koenig and Colonel Dewey shot it out, with the colonel being the victor.